Welcome to the Vine Resources podcast show. Welcome to today's episode of the Vine Resources podcast show. With me in the room is Jonny Nicol. Jonathan is the CEO and founder of Stratajet. Jonny, thank you so much for being with us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Jonny, why don't you give us a quick introduction about Stratajet? I was really excited to talk about you and the company. So why don't you give our listeners a little bit of an insight into the organisation and how you founded it?
Sure. Well, so Stratajet really was designed to try and solve inefficiency in private aviation. And it was really founded on the principle that at the moment, private jets, private aircraft of any sort are disproportionately expensive. And a lot of that expense is due to inefficiency. So if I could figure out a way of solving the inefficiency, I would reduce the price of private aviation, which in turn would then increase the utilisation, which would decrease. And you really had this great opportunity, I think, to democratise, to some extent, private aviation, which is seen very much as champagne and caviar, when it isn't. It's really just about saving time. So I got the idea for it. I just sold my last company, and I had one of these American workout clauses where you're not allowed to kind of touch your computer for a year. And during that period, I became a corporate pilot, having been trained to fly by the RAF. I then ended up using my licenses, and I was flying from Nice to Oxford with nobody on board. And 40% of all private jet flights have nobody on board. And I had where I was parked up in Nice, there was a British Airways aircraft next door, which was loading up with passengers to fly to London. And it occurred to me I could fly some of those passengers over to London, charge a premium for it, and then reposition to Oxford, and it would cost virtually nothing to do it. So that was really the basis of Stratajet. And I think a huge thing we had to do was what we call real-time pricing. And the real-time pricing element, it puts us alone in the world, where you can just go to a website and instantly book an aircraft.
I noted last week that a lot of companies in the US, for example, were flying in execs from outside of San Francisco because the price of housing is much more expensive in San Francisco. So actually using private jets to fly people in. I just wondered if you saw the US market quite differently from the European market.
The US market is much bigger than the European market, and I made a should we say, quite brave decision to get started in the US market, gathering aircraft, before we'd really established ourselves fully in the European market. But that was very deliberate for many reasons, predominantly because it's a much more utilised form of transport in the US. So as you mentioned before, people flying in with a private jet. That actually highlights the discrepancy between the cost of running an aircraft when you fly it often to the cost of charter. So the actual direct costs of flying a private jet are not particularly huge. It's only when you take depreciation of airframe and you add to that the fact you may only fly it twice a week that it becomes expensive to charter. So again, increased utilisation reduces the cost up to the point where it's worth flying people in from Texas because it's cheaper than paying for them to get a house in San Francisco. That said, I'm a little bit dubious. I have a house in Santa Monica, and it's certainly not more expensive than flying a private jet in from Texas every day.
Look, we're going to get stuck into the questions in a moment, but I just had one other question around Stratajet. And how are you using enabling technology to give your customers a better experience?
So technology is very much at the heart of what we do, and unlike most tech startups will spend 6 months building a product, it took us 4.5 years to build the technology that enables us to do real-time pricing. So if you fly a private jet somewhere, you have to pay for the aircraft, but there's also 14 fees completely outside the operator's control, like landing fees, handling fees, and navigation charges. And they're incredibly complex. They're based on things like logarithmically balanced decibel levels when you're on a 2-mile final. So each and every airport's got their own way of doing it. So for each and every fee, we had to build a piece of technology that would not only calculate those fees, but do it very quickly. So for each search you do on stratajet.com, we're actually producing 2.5 million calculations to work out the price of it. We have to do it in around 12 seconds. So that it is the technology that enables people to go online, search hundreds of different aircraft and choose the one they want. The only alternative to that is to go to a broker who will give you maybe 6 or 7 options if you're lucky, normally just 2 or 3. and they'll miss the really good deals. And Stratajet's technology means that we're able to actually provide those really good deals to people straight off the bat, as it were. And then the adaptive empty leg, which can make a dramatic difference to the price of a flight, that kicks in as well, and it's all automated. So we can do, and we do thousands of searches, thousands of quotes every single day. That was quite an interesting statistic actually. So last year alone, we produced 4 times more quotes than the entire aviation industry was able to do in the same year. So computers just weren't aware, and it costs us nothing. It's just a AWS bill. Well, so it's not quite nothing, but it's a fraction of the price of employing people to do it manually.
So thank you so much for that, Jonny. And I was going to come on to a bit about the point-to-point experience later for a customer, from that customer journey from house to jet to thing. But we'll come on to that a little bit later. Look, we're going to get stuck into some of the questions. Can you share with our listeners what a typical day looks like for you as the owner of the company?
There isn't any such thing as a typical day. Shall I just run through this week? So today I came in to the first thing I had to deal with was a world of problems caused by Biggin Hill, which is an airfield just south of London, being shut due to fog this afternoon, and we had passengers flying in from all over the place. And the person who was on call this weekend, it was their first, I won't embarrass by saying who it was their first weekend on call, and they got completely bogged down. So the first thing I had to do was sort all that out. Then I had some of our Polish developers over for a big meeting, which is the meeting I've just stepped out of, and that was a kind of road mapping session. And that will go on. And tomorrow is continuation of that. On Wednesday I have a board meeting. On Thursday morning I'm getting in the company plane and flying to Eindhoven. From there I'll be going to Munich. From Munich to somewhere else in Germany that I can't remember now. And then I'll be back on Friday afternoon in time for the all hands. That's a pretty typical week for me. So I try and get out on the ground to meet the aircraft owners twice a week, because the more aircraft we have on the system, the better deal we can give to our customers.
Great, fantastic. And look, can you name a person that perhaps has had tremendous impact on you as a leader? Perhaps it's even someone that's been a mentor to you in the past. How did that impact you in your life?
I'm trying to think of an answer that isn't just me, but I should probably try. Do you know, I always hate this. I hate this question because I'm. Please don't miscalculate this as arrogance, but I'm probably not aware enough of any great leaders to be able to sort of say they particularly inspired me. What I can tell you is one of the best books I ever read was one called Death on the Ice, and it was about the Scott Polar expedition. So that I thought was amazing leadership. This guy who tried to get to the South Pole first, failed. I won't give the spoiler, but it didn't end well. But inspirational leadership throughout, and I think that is the mark of a leader in startup. You have to be able to lead when things are good, but you really have to be able to lead when things are bad. And it's always by example, with integrity, with determination. And you should never ask anybody to do anything you're not prepared to do yourself. And I think that Robert Falcon Scott was his name. I think he, as a leader, had all of those abilities. So yeah, I'd say he was probably the person who I admire the most. But I'm not a huge studier of leadership.
Well, I love that, and by example is brilliant. We talked a lot in the recruitment industry about employee engagement in companies. It's pretty critical to the success of any business. So what do you do from the top within Stratajet to keep your employees engaged?
I take them to Hyde Park Hyde Park on a Friday morning, and I make them run around and crawl in the mud. Great trick I learned from the military. Keeps everybody fit. It's a great way of starting a Friday. And it also builds team spirit and all the rest of it. So I do that, and then on a Friday evening I feed them alcohol. So really, what else do you need to do to inspire leadership in your team?
What do you think is the biggest challenge facing leaders today?
I think in a business setting, I think the biggest challenges we see, particularly with things like HR law and the expectations of employees. I think leaders now feel very restricted on how much leadership they can give. I think leaders are being pushed increasingly into management positions where you have to think of people as a function they can perform within a company. and you can't think of them in terms of really the individual, the person. How do you inspire somebody to work? How do you make them feel a part of the company? How do you make them feel belong and believe in what you're trying to do? And things like PT in the park. That's what we call running around Hyde Park getting covered in mud. That is something which I think very few people would be comfortable doing as a leader. And maybe one day I'll have to find myself in court explaining how somebody sprained their ankle or something. But I think the benefits outweigh the risk, and I certainly would expect my employees to understand that on a human level. But it becomes harder as you grow. I think as you grow, you have less one-on-one time with the employees, and that makes it more difficult. But I definitely think leaders now are pushed into management. Everything is statistically based in graphs, and you've got to explain everything you're doing and fill in risk assessments and all the rest of it. And it just, gone are the days where you can just shout, follow me, and go for it. And I'm sure it's a safer world, but perhaps it's not quite so inspiring.
Jonny, what's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
I think probably, do you know what? The best piece of advice is simply enjoy the dizzying highs and bear the crushing lows, but enjoy the journey. And that's what it's about. Sometimes when things are going well, you just feel on top of the world. But you only feel like that because you've been through the pain and the misery of running out of money. And there was one 3-month period where I couldn't pay the staff. This was sort of 3 years ago, and I told them beforehand. I said, look guys, I'm not going to be able to pay you in a couple of months. And they all said, we're with you anyway. And they worked for free. Well, not quite free actually. We had to divvy up the money. I went to the bank and took a £50,000 personal loan. God, just remembering what a big deal that was. So £50,000 personal loan to literally pay people's rent, and that was all the money they got. And we'd eat beans on toast together in the evening, and they stuck with it because they believed in it. And obviously, then as time went by, we literally, I don't know, after that, 2 months after we stopped paying the staff, was when we got our first really big round from a VC, and the valuation of the company was going up, counted in sort of millions every week, and that was the dizzying high. But we had the crushing low before, and I think you've just got to not enjoy it, but be aware of it and not let it zap your spirit.
That's a great story as well. And look, thanks for being so open about sharing that. How do you help new employees understand the culture of the company? I know you've mentioned some of the things that you do, but if someone was walking in new to the company, how do you get them to understand the actual culture?
By spending a bit of time with them, I suppose. It's quite important. I always try and make sure that I give them kind of the talk around my vision and what I'm trying to achieve and why, so that whatever they do in the company, whether their role is to answer the door or to build software or to talk to customers or anything, everybody is united with a common aim of what this company is here to do. If you look at our logo, it doesn't say Stratajet making it better for rich people to book aircraft. It says changing the way people travel. And that may take 2 years, it may take 5 years, it may take 20 years, it may take a lifetime, it doesn't matter. That is the objective that we are all unified in wanting to do.
Fantastic. And what if there was one behaviour or trait that you see derail leaders more than any other, what would you say it is?
Letting success go to their head. And I've fallen foul, to be quite honest with you, I have fallen foul of that as well. And what can tend to happen is you become complacent, and that is a very, very dangerous place to be in any startup. It has its time later on when you've really achieved everything you want to do, but you should never start to get complacent when you're still on the journey. And I saw it in myself, and I saw myself doing it, and I think I tend to be quite self-aware, so I think it's a very easy trap to fall into, and and I would say that's probably the biggest potential problem.
How do you see your industry changing in the future, and how do you think that will also attract? How will it affect your ability to attract the best talent?
In terms of getting talent, I think the industry itself will become cheaper. It will become reliant on computers. I very much hope there are computers, but of course there's no guarantees. And it will become much cheaper, and more people will fly privately. In the same way as people used to take buses and not Ubers and not minicabs because minicabs were hard. Uber came along, reduced the cost, made it easier, and have expanded that market very successfully. And I think the same effect will happen in private aviation. The biggest issue I see going forwards in terms of staff is the moment we turn the corner from being a startup to a corporate, and then we lose, the absolute best people in the world want to feel passionate about their work. That's why they're so good at their jobs. It's very hard to do that when you're a number. Companies like Google do quite a good job of it, but it's really, really tough. So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for us as a company, is attracting staff, is really, when we become corporate. But I'll be long gone by then, I'm sure.
And look, Jonny, if you had, and this has been fantastic to speak to an entrepreneur, a business owner, building your company. But if you had your time again and you were giving your 20-year-old self advice, what would be the one thing that you would say?
Do you know what? I wouldn't. It would ruin the surprise. And I think life is about the journey. It isn't about getting things right. It's about learning when you get things wrong. And it's about enjoying life's ups and downs. And you've got to have the downs to get the ups. And I think I'd probably give myself some personal advice, which I won't share with you. But in terms of the way I've run companies, I don't think I wouldn't want to change a damn thing. I am who I am because of the mistakes I made, every bit as much as I am who I am because of the things I got right. And if I gave myself advice, which meant I got everything right, I would be absolutely insufferable and everyone would hate me. So I really wouldn't change anything. I think it's been, my life is from 20 years old, pilot, army officer, run a few companies. It's been an adventure, and what more can anyone ask for out of life than an adventure?
I totally agree with that. And Jonny, what's the best way that people can get in touch with you who are interested in finding out more about you and the company?
If they want to find out about me, it's dreadfully dull, but probably talk to James over at our agency. Look on LinkedIn, of course. If they want to find out more about the company, the website's pretty good. Or just randomly pick somebody from the website, send them an email and say, what's it really like working at Stratajet? That might be quite fun. And if you want to know more about the product and the private jets, just go online and do a search, and you'll get the price, the availability. You can look over aircraft, and you'll probably be quite pleasantly surprised that it isn't as expensive as you think to charter a private jet.
We'll check it out and compare it with BA first class this afternoon. Do we get free champagne on every flight?
You do.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say, do we get free flights? And I was going to have to come up with something witty. But no, you genuinely do get free champagne on every flight.
Fantastic. Hey, Jonny, look, thanks so much for being on the show and sharing your story.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.